Fair enough. I'll tell you. Why don't we start with this? Do you remember how you died? I do. I watched it all happen. I saw you at first on the other side of the gateway, your horns the color of coral. I must admit, your ravenous eyes drew me close. This was my mistake. I have only myself to blame in the end. You turned on them, as you are wont to do, it seems. You gained the power you so desperately sought, and it frightened them, and in the bowels of the earth, in the depths of the dungeons, you exploded in unrelenting force. I've never seen such carnage, and this is why I love you. Shall I go on? Your eyes shoot open, bloodshot and pained, as they shoot around the room of the small cottage. You've never seen this place before, nor do you recognize any objects in the room. There are a set of clothes folded on the chair next to you, dirt covered and tattered, which may or may not be your own. Furthermore, as you search your mind, you don't remember your name, your purpose, or your past. The room is small. The door leading out is shut. There's a long mirror in the room, a desk, clothes, a chest, and the bed in which you sit. On the table is a pitcher of water and a plate with stale bread. Finally, your eyes fall to a black cat that sits in the center of the floor. It sports a set of horns out either side of its head.
Hello?
It sort of turns its head a little bit to the side.
I try to stand up.
And you do, but you feel this shooting pain in your feet. A simple medicine check would reveal that they look very damaged, as if wounds upon wounds have sort of accumulated on them.
Curious. I move to the door of the room.
And as you do, you hear footsteps approach. And sort of as you reach for the knob, the door swings open. And there stands a large man with horns. He has gray hair and sort of chiseled features. His eyes are black, save the red dots in the center. And he looks you up and down. I thought I heard someone moving around.
Hello?
Hello.
Do I recognize him at all?
No. And an insight roll would tell you nothing.
Now we can be right where we left off.
He sort of enters the room. He's a very thin man wearing comfortable clothes. His skin is dark, much darker than your own, but he sort of eyes the horns on your head. And I guess as you feel up, you realize that you too sport a set of horns.
Do I not even recognize like the fact that I'm a tiefling? That's kind of funny actually, because I have hooves.
Yeah.
And not feet.
I think you would recognize that you're you. I don't think you'd be like, oh, I'm this. The same way when you wake up, you're like, I'm a human.
I just mean to say my bandaged feet.
Good point.
Are damaged hooves.
Yes, very true. Interesting.
I'm sorry. Do I know you?
No, I don't think so. Do I know you? And he sort of looks as confused and a bit befuddled as you are, and he sort of enters the room and gestures for you to sit back down on the bed and motions to your feet.
Did you bandage me? What happened? I'm sorry. I must have hit my head or something because I don't remember.
And he sort of sighs and sits back. I was hoping that maybe you'd be willing to share a few ideas about what exactly had happened, but seems like we are both at a loss. No, I have no idea where you came from or who you are. Suffice it to say that I arrived home the other day and you were on my doorstep.
On your doorstep?
Yes.
In what state?
Well, your hooves were quite damaged. You were exhausted and wearing those tattered clothes. I tried to wash them as best I could, but it didn't do much good. And
All of a sudden I'm self-conscious. How long have I been here? What state have I been in?
Yeah, and he sort of sees you panicking. He holds up hands. Don't worry, you're safe. Let me get us some tea. And he walks to the other room, and you hear like him remove a pot from the fire and pour 2 glasses and come back over. My name is Malakos Kairos, and I live in this farm for many years now. And I was quite shocked to find you. I thought at first maybe you were a relative, but I do not recognize you. And the fact that you don't remember who you are poses a bit of a difficult question, I suppose.
I suppose. Thank you for taking care of me.
Oh, of course.
You'll have to excuse me. I'm just very upset right now.
I completely understand. No, I was out fishing, and he kind of stands up and like goes to grab something from the other room and comes back with a small little carafe of like milk and sugar, and he dresses his tea appropriately. Very odd. This man, looks similarly to yourself, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he carries himself with sort of a delicate touch. Despite his calloused, worn hands, he sort of moves very dance-like, almost like a ballerina. I came back yesterday from fishing, and I found you on my doorstep. You'd collapsed from exhaustion, your feet were raw, bleeding. I assumed from the length of your walk, I bandaged you as much as I could, saved your hooves for the most part, and put you in my bed. And frankly, I was hoping you could tell me more about this whole situation, but obviously you don't know, so take a breath and relax. And he stretches a hand across and hands you a cup of tea.
Thank you. I take the tea from him, hold it in both my hands, feeling comforted. Well, I suppose in order for me to have arrived at a stranger's doorstep, if you don't know who I am, in such a state, maybe I was running from something.
I don't know. Hopefully not. Otherwise you brought it with me. Or brought it with you, I should say. Come, let's move to the other room. And he stands up and sort of gestures to take your hand.
I let him.
And he leads you to the next room, and you see a comfortable sitting room, a crackling fire. It's such a stark contrast to what you would expect a man like him to look like. It's almost as if even the clothes he wears covers himself, in a not a cowering way, but in a way that doesn't beset the horns upon his head. Well, I will tell you, you are just south of the town of Redlash in the Desaran Valley. It's a town along the long road, a few days' travel north of Waterdeep. I don't know if any of these names mean anything to you.
Do they?
I don't think so. I think Waterdeep maybe is, you're kind of like, oh, is that a place? But something is definitely wrong. You feel so out of place and lost.
I need to get like a little book to write things.
Hacha. Looks like the stream is still lagging every once in a while, but we're just going to press on through. Because,
Yeah.
life finds a way.
Let's start a brand new book, shall we?
A brand new book.
I'm sorry, what did you say your name was?
My name is Malakos.
How do I spell that if I were to write you a thank you card?
Malakos. Kairos. Kyrus.
And you said we are just south of a town?
We are south of a town called Redlash, and you are in the Desaran Valley. You really don't know where you are, do you?
I'm sorry, I must have sustained some kind of head injury.
No, that is all right. I think it's best just to take it moment by moment. Don't want you to feel too uncomfortable. Yes, you arrived on my doorstep, soaking wet, covered in mud. I think maybe you could have walked from the river, Desaran, but that's almost 30 miles. Be at least a full day of walking.
Well, Malakos, if it doesn't trouble you terribly, I would beg that you let me stay here for at least another day or so until I recover my memory.
And he sort of is almost offended at the thought that he would do anything otherwise. Of course. I'm not sure how much you remember if you don't even know the town of Waterdeep. And he sort of struggles for a second and says, it might be important to point out that you are a tiefling like myself. We are not the most, how can I say this, treated fairly in this part of the world.
Something of that rings true.
I only mean to say that it is not purely by choice that I'm south of the town. I started this farm many years ago because I was not welcome in that town, and people of our kind tend to have to stick to the shadows for the most part.
Well, sincerely then, Malakos. It is their loss.
Yes, well, I say it also as a warning for you. I want to make sure that you're safe, and I don't know who you are running from, but if you are running from someone, then protect yourself. And he kind of stands up, and over the mantle of the fireplace, you see a crossbow. What?
You're fell.
I'll let me get that.
Thank you. I'm very badly injured.
It's just a flesh wound. And he says, I had a family once. I was an arcanist. My son wanted to be a warrior as well. He died many years ago, but he left his belongings behind. And he reaches up over the fireplace, and you see him bring down sort of a light crossbow that he had sort of, seems like mounted in memory maybe, and he blows off a little bit of dust. If you do leave, I suggest you bring this with you just in case. And he puts it by the front door and then moves to a chest. In fact, maybe something better than those clothes. And he goes to the chest, and as he does, you see the cat slink out from the room that you woke up in and sort of walk over to you, and it sort of curls up. Does that sort of cat thing where it brushes past your leg and sort of wraps its tail around.
I'm not paying attention to you, but hi.
Yeah, and it sort of just finds a spot by the fire and curls up.
What's your cat's name?
He stands up from the chest, and he holds leather armor, and he puts it down next to the crossbow, and he says, "That is not my cat." Curiously, and he walks over and sits down in like an armchair next to you. That cat arrived one day before you did. Sat on my my doorstep, I should say, similar to how I found you. Poor thing was scratching at the door. I let it in, and a day later you showed up. Maybe a good sign, huh?
Maybe.
Anyway, leather armor. It fit my son well, and he stands up, and he was slight like you. I think you should wear this if you do venture out. And frankly, if you do not have an idea of where you came from, I was tempted to see if I could find where you walked from. I noticed it rained quite heavily yesterday, possibly part of the reason why you were wet. I wanted to see if I could track the direction in which you came, but I was nervous to leave you alone. Waking up in a house like this is liable to make anybody nervous, so maybe we can take a look outside and follow some tracks. What do you say?
Sure. How far are we from town?
Good 6, 7, 9 miles, maybe. I haven't walked it in many years.
Should I equip myself?
Well, I will, for sure. And he walks to sort of the back of the door where he dons like a heavy, leather jacket, which is leather armor. In these parts, as a tiefling and as a person, it's always safe to travel in numbers and well armed. These hills have seen better days. And he's sort of like, you can tell he's sort of lingering on a thought, and then brushes past it.
As I pull on the leather armor, the feeling of the leather bracers and the tunic and the greaves against my skin feels familiar in a way, like I'm proficient in light armor. And as I hold the crossbow in my hand, the heft of it feels right.
You look like you've used that before.
Maybe.
Well, I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing yet, but hopefully we will not find out. I tend to try to keep quiet, move quickly, and since we'll be tracking your, previous steps, maybe won't take us too far. But I'll show you outside first, and he sort of gestures and opens the door to the cold autumn air. The afternoon light sort of fights against the cold that clings to the grass beneath your hooves as you step out. The barren landscape that surrounds the farm seems almost alien, as if you are on a distant planet. the surface you walk upon is grainy and crunchy. To the right of the comfortable home sits a barn and silo. Both look largely unused, a stark contrast to the warm interior. In fact, the entire exterior of this place feels desolate, as if life was not meant to travel here.
What do you farm here?
Years ago, it would have been potatoes and corn, but now not much grows in these lands. For the past year, I suppose. Has it been that long? Luckily, I live a quiet life. The fish are still pretty good, but it takes a bit while to walk to the river to the north. The day is clear again, but the cold colors of it sort of make it seem like a gray blue, and the dampness of the chill sort of sits oppressive against your skin. His breath sort of blooms as he turns to you, and you can smell like warm ale and that hot tea on his tongue as he points and says, "That's the direction I believe you arrived from." And he points down.
I look around on the ground for hoof prints that would match mine.
Yeah. I mean, you see a few for sure. Do you want to give me a survival check or a tracking check?
Do I?
How do ya?
I do.
Do you want to track?
That's a 7.
Are you rolling on dice, Shame?
Oh, you know what? I get to reroll, right? It restarted.
If it's way better than 7, then no. We'll see. I should have my dice tray, actually.
It's worse than a...
Is it?
Yeah. Bummer. Yeah, because we restarted the internet, so...
Because I restarted the internet. Yeah, you take a look around. You definitely see some hooves, hoof prints. Unfortunately, you can't really tell whose they are, if they're anyone's. Could just be a cow. Luckily, Malakos sort of, in fact, almost like fatherly, he sort of stands over you and says, "Yes, I believe this is your track." And he sort of points it out to you and points in the direction and says, I believe it would be this direction. And he begins walking, sort of just expecting you to follow.
Yeah, I follow behind him, trying to remain aware of my surroundings and also gain as much information as I can about this world that I feel so new in.
Yeah. Well, he's sort of hangs back and, stands beside you for a little bit, maybe sensing the fact that you're curious.
Yeah, and we walk together quietly.
Do you have any questions, is what I'm getting at, he says.
You said the town's name is Red Larch?
Yes.
When's the last time you've been there?
A long time ago now. Like I said, most of what I can get, the earth at least used to provide me. Luckily, I have stores through various winters and fish.
And why did you stop going?
Well, at the time, they weren't quite as accepting as tieflings as I hoped they would be now, but for the most part, I had a poor interaction with a man, and it ended in him losing his life.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. Like I said, these things happen, and as a tiefling, we need to become prepared.
Yes.
And he sort of shuts down the line of questioning.
Yeah. Malakos, I can't remember anything. I can't remember my name or who I am.
That's all right. There are many bizarre spells and things that work in this world. Perhaps there's a reason for it, or perhaps you yourself chose to forget. Either way, you're here now. Let us see if these tracks lead us to where you came from. And perhaps on the way, I can teach you some new things. And he sort of smiles. Do you know the song Le Salvador?
No.
It's a good one. It's very prominent in tiefling culture.
Will you sing it for me?
Of course. And he like bellies out loudly, Le Salvador, Le Salvador, Le Salvador. It's like this guttural, demonic language that you, at first, it feels foreign to your ears, and then you recognize the words as they sort of articulate.
My tail swishes in delight as I recognize the song. Oh, I think I know this.
Yes?
Yes.
I should hope so. Every tiefling child learns it when they are young. It's one of our most popular anthems. And he sort of lets out a belly laugh. And it's in Infernal, so you speak that language, obviously.
I guess I do.
As most tieflings do. Don't speak it around human folk, for they're very nervous. And he sort of runs off for a second and looks towards the edge of the field and gestures for you to crouch.
I do.
And despite these being his lands, you kind of get the impression that, there's something wrong with this area. Again, all around you, it's just this gray-blue oppressive light and sort of a light fog almost that just makes everything feel cold and desolate and dead. And despite the silence, he still picks up on something from far away.
What do you see?
Nothing important. Just sometimes it's bandits, sometimes it is officers from the city, from the town.
Should we cast a warning?
In what way?
Just so they know not to come near.
I don't know. To me, it's always best just to lay in the shadows, but no, let's not draw their attention.
Okay.
And he continues moving forward low and kind of eyeing the horizon, but give me a perception roll.
Okay.
Yeah, the internet keeps dropping. It's like
20.
Yeah, you see, dirty 20?
Yeah, dirty.
Yeah, you see the direction. You see shadowy figures moving on like the edge of the tree line, but they seem to be moving away from you. Seems like it might have just been a caravan that was passing through, but he seems oddly jumpy.
I take his jumpiness at face value. He knows more than I do about all of this.
Because you failed your insight roll.
Are we still following tracks?
Yeah, he's sort of looking down every once in a while, just guiding the way there. And eventually, the day continuing on, the cold, still air around you, it seems almost like a desolate painting.
Malakos.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, of course.
A thought just crossed my mind. Besides the infernal language that all tiefling know, is there anything else that I should know about our bloodline?
It's so interesting to hear someone ask about their bloodline in this way, but I understand, I suppose. Yes, and he turns around and looks at you with the black eyes and the red dots, and he says, a tiefling's vision is very acute. We can see in even the darkest of nights. This is important to know, because humans cannot. Even if you might remember this, it is important to remember that humans have very poor vision in the night. It is our ally.
They seem an inferior race.
In many ways, some would say yes, others would say we are the inferior. I like to try to not think in that way. I try to think that we are all part of this earth, and that together it makes it work better, but ultimately, not everyone thinks the same. And he continues kind of moving in that direction. Say, I did want to ask you something.
Of
It
course.
seems pointless now because you remember very little, but I wanted to ask of your tattoos.
Tattoos?
He sort of stops and turns around. Yes, they're not very common in this part of the world and very rare on tieflings, but when I brought you inside, I noticed them.
I didn't know I had any. Where are they?
You look yourself. And he sort of turns around almost like abashedly, letting you search your own body.
Interesting. So I pull off the cloth of my hooded cape. I guess tieflings wouldn't really have hooded anything because it'd be very difficult.
You're using an old human cape.
Yeah, and I examine myself front and back as much as I can see. What do I find?
Yeah, you look and sort of upon your chest and upon your arms and almost on the majority of your body, you see light tattoo marks, but they're done in almost a faded red ink. So against your complexion, they're tough to spot. But as you look at them, it's impossible to miss now. Your entire body is covered in this script that you cannot read.
I have to say, Malikos, it's a little bit frightening to discover my own body like this.
And he again sort of turns around and looks at you, this time with a wariness and a nerve that he sort of looks up and says, not just for you. The tracks look like they are less far apart. You may have stopped. And as he kind of points up ahead, you see a small grove of trees that sit huddled together. At least 8 large oaks sit together as if on an island, offering frost-covered dry strands of grass and fallen branches as respite in the dead fields that surround you. Malikos points past it to the east and says, the Cairn Road is only a short walk that way. Most people bring their cattle right over this land and let them graze here in the shade in the summer. And as he approaches, he kind of starts searching the ground for your prints. Why don't you give me another survival?
Of course I will.
Of course.
Of course. That's a 13.
Yeah, so you do see your distinctive tracks. I mean, he's pointing them out to you.
There.
And you see that they are rising up to this small, almost like a mound, you know what I mean? In the center, like sort of the crossroads of 4 fields, again, where cattle may have grazed. It's still very desolate for the most part around, but...
I must have traveled up that hill.
Perhaps it's wise to take a look around. I'll keep an eye out in case anyone approaches.
Okay.
And it's small. I mean, it's probably the circumference of this room or the size of this room, maybe a little bit bigger, and it only rises maybe 2 feet off the ground, but large oak trees sprout out of it, you know.
So I approach this stand of trees from a distance. I have my crossbow out, but pointed at the ground, looking for any clue, anything I might have dropped, any shred of parchment, anything.
And as you do, this moment of clarity washes over you. You can feel the crunching of the frosty grass beneath your hooves, and you have this vision in blasts of yourself kneeling, panting, and placing a package of things next to a fallen log.
Oh, I have been here. Malikos, I've been here.
Good. Then we're heading in the right direction.
There's a package here somewhere. I left something here.
Oh.
Help me search for it.
Very well. And he walks into the sort of crunchy, frost-covered grass, and he says, I've searched around this small island. Unfortunately, I don't see any prints to follow away from it, so hopefully you left something helpful here.
Yes.
And you sort of move through to where you remember leaving it. There's like a large log. Why don't you give me a perception roll?
Start digging with my hands in the dry leaves out from underneath. It's an 18.
Perfect. Yeah. You find exactly where you left it. However, it's gone. In fact, the leaves that covered it are sort of pushed aside.
No.
What?
It was right here.
It's maybe, and he starts looking around, and Malikos, very animalistic, kind of gets down and touches the ground and feels the soft grass and that's been pressed. Something has been here, and he starts following it towards the end of the log that you hit it up against, which opens wide. And he turns around the corner, and I think there's a home down here for something.
What do you mean?
Come look.
I follow him and look in the loam.
Yeah, at the end of this large sort of rotting log, you see a hole large enough to enter that leads down into the ground, into some animal's burrow. And he sort of points down towards the grass that has been sort of softly put, stepped upon. And, indicates some like drag marks. Looks like you put something here on someone's home.
Shit. Okay. Is like the hole big enough that we can actually like walk in there or crawl?
Yeah,
or what?
yeah. It's definitely large enough to like
It's like
army crawl down.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
That's so spooky.
It's like a festering log. And again, it's like silent around. You like look down this log, it's sort of like this sort of sound, it's so close to your ears, and then you lift up and that gray blue and the just endless nothingness surrounding you, almost like dry lake bed,
Okay. But I can see in the dark. So how far does the tunnel go before it turns?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It looks maybe 30 feet, 40 feet.
And does it look, clean and dry and uninhabited? Or does it smell like reek of feces? Like,
why don't you give me a roll? I will take survival, perception, maybe even investigate. You can let me know what you're...
I will investigate with a natural 20.
Ooh!
Total of 23. What kind of hole is this, Harley?
Yeah, so not only does this log seem to be... So it's a rotten log that sort of extends down into the ground a little bit, and then hole dug off of it deeper into the ground. But it looks like a relatively fresh hole. This was an investigate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything looks freshly dug and done so in a way that speaks to you of an animal that you wouldn't really recognize. It's not done with the haphazardness of a groundhog or a rat.
A clawed hand? A tool? What made this hole?
A combination, maybe. Like definitely a clawed hand, but you can't really decipher what claw. It doesn't look like a badger or anything like that.
Sure, but tool use?
I would say multiples. Looks like a rake almost.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. A rake.
Mm-hmm. And as you sort of have this down again with that roll, you smell the damp, musty stench of rot, the lingering scent of almost like fruit long since abandoned.
Hello?
Your voice, unlike what we see in the movies, just carries only so far. It gets absorbed into the wet walls, and it almost sounds like you're just speaking to yourself.
Malakos, I think whatever made this tunnel used a tool. Look here.
That's impossible. This is... Unless a halfling or a dwarf maybe made this, but it's unlikely, and I don't know why in the middle of nowhere. Like I said, nothing comes here, except for cattle that occasionally graze. Maybe a rogue cow.
What else could it be?
And he sort of sits back onto like a damp stone and looks around. Tiefling, I think you need to understand that this part of the world has not always been this way. Lately, it's been very dark, mysterious things that have come and gone. Unmistakable, questionable. Things are not right in this world right now.
What do you mean? How have things changed?
It's tough to explain on such a small scale, but when I leave my home now, I feel like I am stepping into another world. It doesn't feel like where I was once. This land, it's been plagued almost by darkness. Something looms. But I fear not it comes from the sky, but below us. It's something that dreams have given me. It's difficult to explain. Just when you say this is out of the ordinary, I feel like this is all I encounter now.
Will you go in with me?
Of course. You need to find whatever you kept here. This is where your trail ends, and obviously it could be helpful to find out exactly where you came from.
If I have anything that you should desire as payment, I would be happy to give it to you.
Very well. Well, we'll figure that out when the time comes. Let us go then.
Me first.
You say me first?
Me first.
Oh, I thought you said he first or something.
He first.
I don't know what it is with this internet. It keeps dipping.
Is everyone hearing and seeing everything okay?
Yeah, let us know if you're seeing or hearing bullshit, because
if you're seeing things, hearing things, go to the emergency department. You are having a stroke. Okay, so I get down on my belly, like placing my head down into the hole, smelling this weird fruit smell. And again, I call out, "Hello? We're coming in." And I, with my crossbow out in front of me, start army crawling face first into this small black crevasse.
Perfect. Yeah, and sort of hand over hand, arm over arm, you're shouldering your way down into this log. You crawl as you feel the wet, damp wood, the rotted, festering, mushrooms and carcasses as you begin to crawl down. That scene in Lord of the Rings when the ring wraiths are like on the ledge, and all the bugs start crawling out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the walls are just littered with like fat larvae.
Do I kind of like it?
Do you? You tell me. Does it feel at home?
And it doesn't feel at home, but it kind of just feels like, these are the first like living creatures besides myself and Malikos that I've seen. Just kind of like, okay, this is like real life.
Yeah. And as you continue down, you kind of hear Malikos say something, but it's muffled because, again, you're so tight in this small hole. And eventually you come out to the opening. You kind of climb down towards this large area that at first strikes you as sort of out of place. So you're in a large carved out hollow. The walls are fresh. This is done very recently. To the right is a small tunnel that leads to the right of you, and to the left another. But this large room you see has a number of trinkets laid out almost on carpets, as if a peddler was expected to trade.
Weird.
The trinkets are sort of all matter of size. They're not necessarily presented, but there's just a variety of things. And as you sort of step into the room, Malikos enters behind you and stands up with a crouch.
Look at this.
What oddity is this? I've never seen something.
Does it seem like a treasure hoard?
I don't know. I mean, you can roll an insight. Does it seem like a treasure hoard to you?
Yeah.
Give me a roll then.
I want to roll insight. For fuck's sake.
What'd you get?
20.
Nat 20!
My second one. So
no, it doesn't.
Got a 22.
I mean, it doesn't seem like a treasure hoard. It seems like a trinket
pile.
No, it's not though. I'll explain this, and actually, this is a good roll to get. This does not speak of someone selling these goods. This does not speak of someone hoarding these goods. This speaks of someone curious of these goods. This speaks to somebody who collected these items and placed them to study and take time and look through each one. And in fact, as you're sort of eyeing them from a distance, you recognize that this freshly made hole does not have the crude building of a badger or a rat den or a wolf den. It seems to have beams every once in a while, crude as they are, not fashioned with saw, but large sticks supporting certain areas.
How big is the room altogether?
Maybe 20 feet across.
Okay. Are my things here?
That's a good question. Why don't you give me a little bit of a persp? Because not only are you trying to remember them, you're also trying to sort of sort through them out.
Natural one.
Oh, yeah, you don't know. You don't even remember. You remember where you placed it, but you have no idea what the actual item was that you placed.
It could be anything.
Oops. Oh, shit.
Did you drop the stream?
No, I just fucking switched my screens. There we go.
You're funny.
It's tough streaming on another monitor.
Malikos, I don't know. My things are here, but I can't recognize them.
Well, it doesn't seem like whatever lives here is here right now. So either we need to be quick or we need to leave.
Let's be quick. I start going over and looking at the different piles of stuff. What do we got?
Yeah, I mean, there's some bizarre... Are you just like looting?
No, I'm curious. I don't want to fuck with whatever has made this crazy den, but I want to get my stuff back.
There are a number of really mundane objects put into, like, a single flask of oil, like a perfectly cut out brick, a like a gorgeous little twig, a mushroom that's like dug up from the ground, sort of, you know, like in a presented manner. There is also a very interesting looking teapot, a bag of what you can only imagine is coins, gold, and a colorful cloth bag tied with a number of items in it, sort of a large bag.
Can I open it?
Yeah, if you want to touch it.
I do.
Okay.
I go over there. Clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop.
Loudly?
No, quietly.
Okay.
Very quietly.
Yeah. And as you do... Are you actually?
Yeah.
Give me a stealth roll.
Okay. Fine.
Isn't it rich? Couldn't
7.
you see? Yeah, you're not as quiet as you think. Your horns like go against the the beams. Yeah, you open it and you recognize that these items are wrapped in a set of vestments. It's like clothes that they're wrapped in. Inside, you see a number of candles, a tinderbox, a component pouch, 2 ornate daggers with sort of like really intricate handles and intricate blades, and a very interesting looking book. It's got a bunch of numbers in it. You kind of brief through, and then a ring.
This must be mine. This is my pouch.
Malikos is like eyeing the exit and eyeing the other 2 exits to this room, and he's like, "All right."
And the gold is mine for sure. I remember that gold.
Okay, are you going to take it?
Yes. Do you recognize any of these things as yours?
And he walks over and he sort of looks through them. I don't think so, no.
Okay. I grab my bag.
Okay. And just the bag, or you grab the gold too?
Oh, I take the gold.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you grab the gold?
Yeah. And then I replace the gold with like a bag of sand that's the equal weight.
Where do you find a bag of sand? It's just on a carpet. I mean, it's not weighted.
I know, but I want to because it's funny.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. And then we go. We scooch.
Okay.
We scoot.
Yeah. You climb back up the sort of the tight little hole that arrives. And as you sort of peek your head out, you roll out and, you know.
Peek and roll.
What's his name?
Malikos.
Does the same. And he says, "So you have your things back then?"
It would seem so.
Was there anything of instance, of substance, something that you found that...
There's a book.
And he sort of eyes the book and doesn't really make any sense of it. Do you show him everything or just the book?
I show him the ring.
He sort of steps back a little bit. He's like, why do you have that ring?
I don't know. I don't know anything. What does it mean?
It's an unholy symbol.
What?
There's not... And as he speaks, he sort of trails off and looks down to his feet. And as you sort of follow his gaze down, you see white wisps of mist moving across your feet like tentacles. And he looks towards the east, and you both see this thick fog moving quickly towards you. And within seconds, it's engulfed the two of you.
Malicos.
What?
I'm scared.
Don't be. It's just a bizarrely hanging low. And thick, wet sounds begin dropping around you in the fields, like as if pumpkins are being dropped. Just...
Should we run?
No, don't move. And then they stop. I don't know. I've never done this before. I've never been in this before. What do you want to do? You tell me what. Should we run?
We have to get back to your cottage. It's the only safe place.
Okay. And he kind of begins moving around and like pawing. The mist is so thick. It's like 2 feet. Like you can feel the log. And that's about it because you guys just came out of it. I don't know the direction.
I have a torch. I don't know if that would help.
And as you're looking through your bag to pull out a torch, you hear an arrow thunk, into the tree, the rotten log beside you. Roll for initiative.
Oh my goodness.
Dun, 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 dun.
I was going to do it, but then I was like, oh, that's dumb. But it's not dumb. It's the best.
Let me know what you got.
I rolled a 16.
Do you want to roll for Malicos?
I would love to roll for Malicos. 14 for Malicos, plus whatever his initiative modifier is.
Perfect. You go first.
Yee! Okay, what do I see?
Mist.
So obviously the arrow came from somewhere.
Yes.
From what direction? From where we came or from away?
It came from away, not from within the burrow.
Okay. So I'm like, Malicos, we have to run. I can't see our attackers. Can I? I want to roll perception.
Yeah, give me a perception roll.
Buh. It was on a 19 and it rolled to a 9, which gives me an 11.
Yeah, no. You take a look around quickly and you try to see where the arrow came from, but you don't really see anything.
Okay, I start running.
Okay, which direction?
Ah!
Which direction?
Towards the gloppy noises, like into the field.
They kind of popped everywhere.
Oh boy.
Like you're on an island in the middle of fields. I mean, would you even remember what direction you came from? You'd have to do a survival roll.
Oh fuck. Okay, never mind. I want to take cover behind that big log.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
So I run over the log and I
Yeah.
crouch down.
Yeah.
And I want to ready an action.
Okay.
That if I see anything that seems like it's going to hurt me,
Yeah.
or anything that I find creepy or threatening, I'm going to shoot it.
Anything that you find creepy or threatening or scary.
I'm going to have the option to shoot
A
it.
scary parrot jumps out. Perfect. Okay.
What was that? Sorry.
What?
There's like a cereal toucan
Yeah.
for Fruit Loops.
Toucan Sam?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Him.
Yeah. What is it? I don't even remember his voice. Malicos
Cave
takes
of Wonders.
the same takes the same idea.
Yeah,
He's
he
like-
runs with me.
He does the same thing. He jumps over,
Sick.
and he just has like a short sword and a shield, unfortunately. But that's not true. Sorry,
Malicos.
he told you what he was. Do you remember?
He's a farmer.
No, he said he fought in the war,
Oh.
or he said he was a fighter. He's an arcanist. He's a spell user.
Cool.
So he opens his hand, like a little flame comes out.
That's sick. Do I know that I can use magic?
Yeah, I mean, It's up to you. But sure. You can roleplay that however you want. Maybe he does that and you see.
I'm like, oh. See, when I was asking you about what tieflings could do, I was sort of hoping that you were going to mention thaumaturgy, which is like a racial spell.
I'll say this. Mechanically, you know what you can do. I don't want to limit you.
Because crossbow is not my strong suit.
No. This is where role-playing mechanics meet. And I'm happy if you
I slide the ring on my finger, and it fits perfectly.
Oh, yeah, and you're cursed. But we'll get to that after.
What?
Nothing. We'll talk about that after.
Harlan!
You just did it without reading anything about it. I will say at the end of his turn, though, he looks at the arrow that was fired into the log, and he goes, this is not a normal arrow. This is not... Mm-hmm. This is not a normal arrow.
You're cursed.
What's his voice? It's like kind of German.
I cursed you.
This is not a normal arrow. And he pulls it out and he's like, I've never seen this kind before. It looks bizarre. And he kind of holds it out and it looks bizarre. It doesn't even look like an arrow. It kind of looks like a large dart.
Weird.
And what do you want him to do? Ready in action as well?
Oh, I get to control him too?
Well, I mean, within reason.
Yeah, ready in action that I don't know what he can do, so.
He can do Ray of Frost, Shocking Grass.
Yeah, an offensive cantrip.
Okay.
Of some kind.
Those are his, ranged and his up-close attack. So, he'll ready those. Perfect. Yeah. You hear a scuttling in the bush. You sort of hear movement. And, actually, why don't you give me a perception roll? Actually, what's your passive perception? I say it's not
12.
12? Yeah. You're against the log. Mm-hmm. You feel the log move a little bit. And that's it.
I'm creeped right out.
Yeah.
How big is the log?
Large.
Big enough to
half cover?
Obviously. Does it sound like there's something on the other side?
You'd have to roll something because it's tough.
I'm gonna roll perception.
Sure.
19.
No, it feels like something went
into the
yeah
hole.
Yeah, actually, it feels like more than one thing went in.
Oh shit. Do I think we could move the log? Because if it just moved by a couple of scuttling things.
Interesting. It's sort of wedged into the ground. You know how you feel vibrations on a hollow? It was more like that than anything else.
Is there anything around that I could stuff into the hole?
You did hear something big and wet fall. You always look for that.
Ew.
Like a pumpkin.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't. You could do you. You could go get whatever that was.
A big wet pumpkin? That'll probably work, right?
Yeah, right. Totally.
What the fuck is wrong with his ear?
He just wants to hear you. It's what's going on, guys?
I can't see where anything is. I don't know what it is. It's scary. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I want to barricade those little dudes in their hidey hole.
Okay.
But I don't have a way to do that necessarily that you have made clear to me. So instead, I take Malikos' arm and I say, we have to run now.
Okay. Give me a survivor roll for which direction you're running.
12.
All right, let's let fate decide. Yeah. So you stand up.
You're so mean.
What does that mean? What? You stand up, and do you want him to move on your turn as well, type thing, or how do you want to do this?
Well, he goes right after me,
exactly.
Right? So can we kind of?
But if you're gonna do his action, then we'll just say you do them together.
I'm just gonna say follow me.
Perfect. And you stand up and you begin moving into the mist, and only a few steps, your feet land on the field the dirt in the field. And Malicos sort of turns around and follows you afterwards. And yeah, you're out on the field in some direction.
Okay.
Do you move your full movement?
Yeah, I'm going to dash.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're like 60 feet away.
Okay. Cool. Does anything else happen?
No. Malicos runs as well, 60 feet. And now you're both out in a field in the mist.
You just keep running.
In the same direction?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you do that. Other things happen. So wouldn't need to roll for. Oh yeah. Ooh. Yeah. No, I'd say fair enough. You keep running, and eventually you run out of the mist, and you kind of get on the outside of it, and you see this massive mist cloud just sort of continually moving.
Malicos, do you recognize this landscape? Where are we?
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
You're sort of standing in the middle of the fields at the edge of a wood. It's like, we can find the road and make our way home, but I don't recognize exactly where we are now.
Yes, let's do that. I look around. Are there any like weird wet pumpkins?
Like where the thing left?
What?
Like where the mist cloud passed?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like these large bulbous purple things that are like shriveling up as the cloud moves.
I want to go look at one.
Go for it.
I go over.
Okay, yeah. So you approach this sort of jittering mass.
Jittering?
Yeah, it's like moving.
Oof.
And how close do you get?
I'm gonna stay 10 feet away.
10 feet away?
Yep.
Yeah, it attacks you. This tentacle goes whoosh, and like jumps out towards you to hit. And it hits with an 18.
Oh, dang.
And you take 3 points of damage.
Okay. I hated that.
Yeah.
But
Malicos like runs up and grabs you. Well, I guess it's your turn.
Yeah. So I run away.
Yeah.
I run 30 feet away, and then I turn around and I blast it.
Okay. Give me a roll. I mean, it's not moving right now.
I know.
It's interesting.
It's not going to move ever again.
Yeah. Well, so you do that. And in fact, you don't even have to roll because you're looking at these things that
I know they're dying already.
They're dying already.
I know, but I want to die. I want to kill them.
Do it. Roll it.
XP farming. That's what this is.
Okay.
I'm just going to like follow this fog cloud around and kill these guys until I'm like level 4.
It's not, it's like, do you get XP from burning a tree?
Yeah. It hurt me. Do trees hurt you?
Some trees do.
You would get XP for burning an awakened tree.
Not if they die themselves.
What do you mean if they
things,
die themselves?
These things
Just
die.
because they're on their way to death doesn't mean that I wouldn't get XP.
You ran up to this thing like seconds before. It's like a what do you call it? It's like a.
I killed it with my Eldritch Blast.
Absolutely, and you do. You react. How do you react to all this happening?
So the thing reaches at a tentacle and gets me across the face. And as a reaction, almost without knowing what I'm doing, I just offer my hand out, and like this dark purple energy gathers in it, and it like shoots out across this foggy field into the body of this pulsating creature, and it explodes.
Yeah.
And then I run away. Like, what was that? What did I just do, Malicos?
Pieces of this thing just go like firing off towards the like horizon, and Malicos is like standing next to you, like walking up to you and like hoping you're okay, and he's like, I have no idea what that was, and I don't understand what has happened, but we need to move. And as he sees that, because we're still in initiative order and you've gone, you see 3 small figures sort of following on the other side of this gibbering thing that you've just destroyed. And they're maybe 30 feet away from you, ish.
Okay. Then what happens?
That's it. That's the end of their turn.
And then it's Malicos's turn?
Now it would be Malicos's turn, I suppose, eh? Because it would have been this thing. I don't think this thing entered into initiative. You just like touched it.
So it goes me, things, Malicos?
No, it goes you, Malicos, things. These things.
So it's my
moved
turn
there.
now.
Exactly.
What do they look like? They're small
question.
things. They're 30 feet away from me.
It's almost about the size of a small child. They're wearing.
Oh, that's so creepy.
Yeah, it's very creepy. It's a small, furry creature with a tail, a narrow, sharp, fanged mouth. Its nose is subdivided into small tentacles that writhe constantly. Mm-hmm. And they're wearing sort of like clothes, like fashioned, like big, thick, dark brown leaves across their chests. And one of them has a bow, and then two of them are just on all fours right now.
Can we talk a little bit about the thing I exploded?
Yeah.
So it necessarily had hit points because it attacked me on its turn.
It does. It's like a Venus flytrap.
But it has hit points.
Well, technically yes.
And then I killed it.
Yes.
So I get 5 temporary hit points.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sure.
Yay!
So weird. Okay.
I recognize that I only have 6 hit points right now.
Okay, fair enough.
And I'm going into a fight with
You deserve it. Why don't you explain to us
combatants.
why that happened, though?
I have, well, I'm a warlock, as it turns out, and I have a otherworldly secret called Time's End. So when I deal damage to a creature, I get to reduce its maximum HP by the amount of damage that it takes, and then also I take 5 temporary hit points, or I gain 5 temporary hit points when I kill something. And I just did that. So unfortunately, temporary hit points do not stack.
You only get max 5.
That's right. But at least that recoups the 3 that I just lost. So now it's my turn. Mm-hmm. One of them has a bow, and the other 2 are on all fours running.
They were, yes.
Now what are they doing?
They've stopped.
And they're just like looking?
Yes.
I turn to them and I say, "Leave me alone! I'm just getting my things."
Interesting.
You stole these from me.
Yeah, and they sort of turn to each other. Give me an insight roll.
Okay.
Just to add some context to this scene.
Yeah. That's a natural 1.
Yeah, you have no fucking idea what's going on. But these creatures sort of look towards each other. They speak in this like ticking, this nattering like.
Malicos, what are these?
And Malicos is just like stone faced. He's like, I've never seen creatures like this in my life. And the creatures
finish eating their pudding.
No, that's how they talk. And then the one turns to you and says, "Give us back our gold." And it like speaks in this guttural common that you can understand, but it's just so unsettling.
I don't have any specific memory of owning gold. Do
No.
I?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what you start with as a player.
50 gold.
Okay, you have that on you.
This is why I was like, this is probably my gold.
Fair enough. That wasn't listed
You
on
didn't
your...
what?
You sent me your inventory. You didn't list that on it.
50 gold.
I didn't see that.
Well, that's why I took it, because I was like, oh, he didn't mention it in my bag of stuff, so this is mine.
Fair enough. That was my error. Either way, they feel like it's theirs. They feel like they've earned it.
They want my gold?
You still have your 50 gold.
Okay,
Let's just say this is bonus gold.
Well, okay, bonus gold, I don't need. A tiefling doesn't need that many worldly possessions. I heft the bag of gold and I make a ranged attack throw again. No, I'm just kidding. Try to peg them with it.
I mean, Okay, so I recognize what you're saying. What you're saying is that had you known it was your gold, you probably wouldn't have. Had you known it wasn't your gold, you wouldn't have taken it or whatever.
Correct.
Would you have left it if you thought that your gold was your gold or whatever?
Yes.
Okay. I will say this then. I think they're already quite frightened of you. This is why they've stopped. You failed your insight, but you can kind of tell they're like literally shaking because you essentially ran away from them. They saw that something was taken from them. They didn't know it was yours. They chased you down. You turned around as they caught up with you and then blasted the fuck out of something, sending little pieces of it all over, and then turned to them and told them to leave you alone. So they're quite frightened. Mm-hmm. The one is sort of on his very thin will, very nervous power as he asks this of you to return his gold. Now you know everything.
Okay. Thank you for turning my 1 into a 20.
Not a 20. I mean, it's pretty obvious to see something scared when they're that scared.
I mean, it was going...
Yeah. Oh, it still spoke to you, and it was like...
I don't know if that's fearful slobbering or...
Yeah.
Like angry slobbering.
It was fearful.
Okay. I'll know for the future. What does angry slobbering sound like, just for comparison? Okay. So, yeah, if I have an extraneous bag of gold, I'm going to throw it at him.
Okay.
Leave me alone! Here! Take your gold! I throw it.
Yeah, and it like slams against the field and just and like a few pieces of gold, and they like clamor to it while the one with the bow keeps it trained on you. Mm-hmm. And you're sort of all in a standoff for a moment. They collect their pieces.
I conjure another ball of purple energy. And I look at them and I say, "Don't follow us."
And Malikos sort of nods his head. Should we just leave then?
I think so.
And the creatures turn around and begin heading back towards their home.
That's right.
And Malikos is like taken aback and turns around and begins heading in a direction along the tree line. He's not really talking to you. He's taking like a 5-foot gap step ahead of you.
Malikos, what happened?
What do you mean, what happened?
What are these things that fell from the sky?
I do not know. I